Hello everybody and welcome to the Thursday edition of Video Clips. There are all kinds of myths and an awful lot of discussion. I get asked this all the time. Why don't doctors, more of them, recommend nutrition as a means of treating disease? And so the answers to those questions are all over the place depending on who you ask. You hear things like, people aren't interested in changing their diet. They'd rather take pills. Another is that they don't follow their doctor's advice to eat better. I have doctors saying, I tell my patients to lower the fat and eat better. They just don't do it. Well, a new survey, at least on the surface, seems to support the idea that patients just don't follow their doctor's advice. It all started with Medscape, which offered an online survey to primary care doctors and cardiologists, asking them about their interactions with their patients. 230 primary care docs, or PCPs, participated, and 208 cardiologists. And according to this survey, the major obstacles to patients achieving ideal health are way beyond the doctor's control, which the first thing that I said when I read that is then, why are we going to doctors? I mean, we're going to get advice about how to recover our health and stay healthy, or should be anyway. And so if the doctor can't help, why are we there? All right, cardiologists say they're frustrated because patients aren't motivated and won't make heart healthy choices, and the PCPs respond that the same thing is true in their case. All doctors seem to be comfortable discussing certain things that are within their comfort zone. But they get frustrated about things like diet, mainly because I think they don't get any training that tells them how to do it properly. So just to give you an idea of where they are, 93% of cardiologists and 74% of PCPs, or primary care physicians, say that they have given patients advice about how to improve their heart health. But 24% of cardiologists and 28% of PCPs report that more than half of their patients didn't do anything in response to the advice that they were given. Not all docs are even offering advice. I have to throw that in. At least these people are saying something. Now we'll get to what they're saying in a second because that's an issue. But according to data from the National Hospital Ambulatory Medical Care Survey, which included 185 million doctor visits for people with type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, or obesity, more than half the time the patients didn't get a single word about changing their diet or about exercise. In fact, 79% of the people who smoked, not a single word was spoken about quitting smoking. So again, what are we doing in the doctor? What is the doctor's visit all about? It's no wonder that most medical organizations have said that annual exams are useless. Both cardiologists and PCPs reported the same types of barriers. PCPs reported that 82.5% of patients are not motivated to change. 59% perceive the cost of eating well and or joining a gym to be prohibitive to them. 58% don't have time. Only 1.3% of all patients reported that there were no barriers to improving their health with some type of diet and lifestyle change. The resistance numbers for the cardiologists were a little bit lower, but basically the same. It seems to me, now this is a thought, that if 82.5% of the people that you're talking to are not taking your advice, instead of blaming them, maybe you should look at the way that the information is being communicated. Only in the medical field is it the customer's fault when they don't follow directions. Okay, so just picture another scenario where a car salesman is standing in a car lot saying, I talk to people all day long about buying this car and none of them will buy it. Well, at some point in time, you got to look at what is the car you're selling? Well, how are you talking about it? You can't just continue to say that the potential customers are stupid because they're not buying the car that you're showing them. Only in the medical field. It is like a whole different planet out there someplace. Well, there are several things that could make this a whole lot better. The first thing is that doctors would get more people on board if they presented diet as a clearly superior option much better than taking drugs or having procedures. This is almost never done. Instead, doctors mention diet in passing. Oh, you got to lose weight and eat better, whatever the heck that means, right? And they don't really talk about the side effects of the drugs or their lack of efficacy. In fact, I get asked all the time, gosh, Dr. Pam, how do you go into some employer setting and get a bunch of people who don't know anything about this to volunteer and sign up to take your programs and improve their health? Well, it's real easy. We call it the informed consent discussion. tell people, for example, that taking cholesterol-lowering drugs is only going to reduce their risk of a heart attack by about 1.6%, and then show them Dr. Esselstyn's data, and you would be amazed the number of people who want to hear more about this diet thing. So, the first thing is the way the information is communicated could be changed. The second thing is that doctors need to have organized programs that teach people what to do and how to do it. Telling somebody to eat better and exercise is meaningless unless you have this type of program going on. Most doctors don't have these programs, and even the ones that do don't have follow-up and support programs. So that's the next thing. You have to have a vehicle for teaching this. The third thing is you got to give recommendations to people that will truly allow them to improve their health. So much of the dietary advice doesn't result in substantive change. Now, in this survey, the diet most recommended by doctors is the Mediterranean diet. 70% of the doctors who said something about diet recommended it. Vegetarian diets, whatever that means, because we all know that's a moving target in terms of definition, only 20% of the time. The Ornish diet, less than 10% of the time. Now, why is this important? Well, the number one diet, Mediterranean diet. Well, in a recent study, the Mediterranean diet resulted in no weight loss and less than 1% reduction in the risk of having a major cardiovascular event. So nobody's going to get excited. That doesn't change anybody's life. I've said this for years. You take a diabetic who's overweight and insulin dependent and tell him to eat leaner chicken and count carbs, and at the end of the year he's 10 pounds heavier and still on all the meds. Why should this person continue working at their health? So you got to give people programs and dietary ideas that actually will work. When we get back to this Mediterranean diet, I'm sure a lot of people think they're eating the Mediterranean diet because they're drinking wine and dipping their bread in olive oil, but those things don't result in weight loss or improved cardiovascular health or any type of improved health at all. Another issue, doctors don't practice what they preach. A few weeks ago, I reported on another Medscape survey that asked doctors about their diet and lifestyle habits, and the Mediterranean diet was very popular, but just as popular was the standard American diet. So these doctors are not practicing habits that are health promoting, and it's real hard to convince other people to do something that you yourself are not doing. Well, none of this is going to change until we take care of some things. The first thing is we got to get doctors to start with themselves. If you're not practicing healthy habits, you're probably not going to be influencing other people to do it. They have got to learn how to effectively communicate this information to patients, and we can't blame it on the patients anymore and say they're unmotivated. The ones around here aren't unmotivated, and even when we walk into employer settings where people know nothing about this, we get them motivated. So, I mean, I don't want to sound arrogant, but if you don't know how to communicate, come to see me and I'll show you how to do it. I mean, that's one of the things we do here is help healthcare professionals. The next thing is they have to have structured programs for patients. You cannot just send people home to read a book and hope that they're going to be able to pull this off on their own, and you have to have follow-up and support. So anyhow, the reason I want to talk about this is I do spend a lot of time answering the question, why don't more doctors talk to their patients about diet and health? Well, as it turns out, a lot of them do. They're just not saying the right things in the right way or providing the service needed to help people learn how to do this. So that's actually good news, because what it means is this is a solvable problem. It's not that Americans are a bunch of slothful human beings that don't care. It's that the medical profession needs to find different ways to reach them. All right, that's all for today, all for the week. As usual, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it, and I'll be back to you again next week.